the component that we are dealing with is coming from a third-party library, Angular material. So imagine the authors of the library decided to change the implementation details of the component, and they want to introduce the change event back to the select or anything else that they could do. Imagine that update will break our test because it's different. The clicks won't work anymore. So this is kind of like an example. And if that happens, we don't like to go and update our broken test every time a library updates their code. So what is the solution then? Well, the community of Angular material has already thought about this, and they have prepared something for that matter called component test harnesses. And this is an API available through CDK from Angular CDK testing to be specific. And you would use this API instead. Um, and the API interacts with the component the same way a user would, which is what we always want to have in our test. By that, the consumers of the component, the material component, um, will avoid dependencies on any private implementation details, and it would be more easy to update to a new library versions. So we're gonna use this API. I won't explain the details. If you want to, you need to go back to the CPI and read. It's very, very important. But at least what I'm gonna show is basically what you need most of the time. So first of all, we need to import test environment, which is as shown in example here. We need the testbed harness environment loader. So I'm gonna copy this and paste it just after the render. So I need to import the testbed harness environment from CDK testing testbed. And if we hover over the loader, it tells us that this loader will create a harness loader instance rooted at the given fixture's root element. And the root element in our case would be the fixture of the example component. And you can get that from the result of the render. So what the render returns is called render result. And it's an object that contains many utilities and things. And one of these things is the fixture of the component. And we can just use that here. So now that we have the loader, next thing to do is to, well, let's first remove all this code we don't need and keep only the native HTML commented out. So the loader has the get harness method, and this method searches for an instance of the component corresponding to the given harness type under the harness loader's root element. So it's gonna search for a harness that corresponds to what component or what material component you want to communicate with. And in the get harness, we need to give it the type of the harness related to the component, which is the select in our case. So it would be then MatSelect and then it always ends with the harness. And as you can see, the auto import imported this from Angular material / select. It lives in the folder of the material select component, and then there's this testing folder where the harness is provided. So with doing this, we have now an instance of the MatSelect harness. And this instance is what we will use to communicate with the MatSelect in the DOM. We can call this select harness. And by doing so, we can now expect that this is not null, because the get harness, if it doesn't find the corresponding element, which is the MatSelect in the DOM, it would return null. And by the way, this is an async function, so we need to wait first, and then it returns your harness if it finds it. Otherwise, it will return null. And we can now run the test and see if this gonna fail or pass. If it passes, then we got what we need. Yes. Okay. So now select harness has many methods, and what we want to do is to open the select material component as if you clicked on the MatSelect, like here. You just click here to open the menu. And this is important, because if you don't call this command and just go and try to select an option, it won't work. You need first of all to open the menu as if you are doing this in reality. So we can check if the menu is now selected or not by using the select harness is open. So it gets whether the select is open or not. And you can do another expect here. Select is open to be true. Okay, there is one error, and it's because we are not waiting for the open. This is one thing. And we are not waiting for the is open as well. So you can notice all the methods of the harness are async. Okay, now the test passes. Next up is we want to get the options so that we can click on, and you do that by select harness.get options. All right, let's assign this to the options harnesses variable, and I need to wait as always. And now I can also expect the length, because we know that we want we have 3 options, so we can check the length to equal 3. Okay, test passes. And I am interested in the second one because the second one is the pizza. So we can say pizza option harness equal option harnesses, and then I access the second one. And then pizza options, pizza option harness has methods like click and get text and many other things, and we are interested in the click one. And I need to wait so that the action is performed. And finally, rerunning the test should show the pizza in the selected food section. There you go. So to finish the test, we need a last expect, and we should not rely on the screen debug. This should be removed in the end. And so what I want to do instead of having the screen debug is I expect that the select food have the text content that we see here inside the paragraph. So expect selected food to have text content, and that would be exactly selected food, colon, and the pizza emoji. And it is passing. So this part is how you need to write your test in case of dealing with material components. Or let's say material select. So you have to use the harnesses, and in case you are dealing with native HTML select, you would try to use the user event that the testing library provides. And regarding the material harnesses, let's just comment this out because it's failing the test for now. We don't need to show it. So one last thing. If you go back to the documentation and go to any component, there is something very nice that the docs has in the examples of every component. There is the testing with or testing with the material component harness. So anytime you struggle with dealing with harnesses, or I recommend when you start working on your test, you take a look on the examples in the documentation. They are very useful. So in our case, we have dealt with the select, right? And if I open that one, it would be very, very similar to my case, or to the code that I wrote. So you open the example from here. And regarding the Harness API, you can find it in the API section of the component. So this is the API of the select, but then you have the testing section where you will find the harness of the particular mat component. In this case here, it's the MatSelect. And here you will find the API or the methods that I used in the test. So as a conclusion, if you are dealing with native elements, use this strategy. Use the user event from the testing library. And if you are dealing with material components, use the Harness API. And finally, last thing to say, I hope this tutorial was helpful and Please share with me your questions or anything that was not clear. I can answer and I can help you anytime. And thank you very much, and see you in the next one.